All right, guys, today in Hacking Half Guard, I'm going to be showing you guys 3 submissions that you can hit while still stuck in the half guard. All right, guys, as we're continuing to deal with our opponent in half guard here, I'm going to give you guys kind of 3 submissions that I like to hit when my opponent is trying to wrestle up. All right, so there's different levels of wrestling up, and it depends upon where I catch him at. All right, so you know, when he's in a half guard in an knee shield position, he's going to be looking to try to feed his hand up underneath my armpit, come up onto his elbow and up onto his hand, and that's going to give him a lot of leverage, and that's going to allow him to wrestle up. Okay, so I know that that's one way for him to get out of the half guard, and then another way is they'll go underneath your hips. So we're going to address the underneath the hips one in our next video, so go ahead and check that out when it comes out later in the week. All right, so but first I'm going to deal with this wrestle up. Okay, so when I know my opponent's trying to wrestle up on me, depending upon my reaction time on how where I catch them at. If I catch them early in the wrestle up, I'm going to be able to flatten him out. So as he starts to go to wrestle up, I go for my cross face, so he's got his hand in there, and I'm able to flatten him and put him flat on the ground. Now he's got his underhook here, so I've got to be very aware of that. So I'm keeping my hips back, and I'm keeping my chest low so that he can't load me up on top of him. Okay, so I need to stay very tight here. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a basic Ezekiel choke here. Okay, so when I get in this position, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my head very close to his head, and I'm going to turn my chin in so he can't turn his head towards me. It also makes it very uncomfortable for him, but this also takes my face out of the way to where I can put the Ezekiel choke in. All right, so I'm going to reach over, I'm going to grab my gi, I'm going to feed my Ezekiel choke in. Now, there's 2 different ways that I like to finish my Ezekiel choke. If I can get the hand all the way across, I can pull my hand across and finish the Ezekiel choke there. But a lot of times, if he's tucking his chin and my hand across is not an option, I'm just going to take my fingers like this in knuckles, and I'm going to place them right inside of the carotid artery right here, and then I'm going to finish my Ezekiel choke right there with pressure. Okay, that's the first way to submit your opponent inside of the half guard. All right, guys, the second way I'm going to submit my opponent in the half guard when they're trying to wrestle up, this time he got a little bit further on his wrestle up. So he's starting to get up underneath me. So now I'm going to switch my hips, and I'm going to dive over his shoulder, putting him back flat to the ground. All right, so I'm going to dive over his shoulder, putting him back flat to the ground. All right, so he's still got this underhook on underneath me. So I'm going to make sure that my foot is behind me here so that I don't get rolled over, right? That's going to be my first concern. And my second thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to try to fight his arm. I'm going to take this hand, I'm going to punch it in between me and him. So I'm going to put it in that hole, and I'm going to put it against my own chest. Now that I've got this in place, my elbow is giving me a good base right here. I'm going to be able to reach back and look for this hand, all right? Now, I want to be able to do this without him being able to grab anything. He was keeping that underhook so that he could try to get a better position on me. I'm going to reach back, I'm going to get this hand. Once I get control of it, I'm going to punch it out and away from his body, and I'm going to pin it to the ground. Okay, so out and away from his body, and I'm going to pin it to the ground, all right? So here we're going to go into our Kimura attack, all right? So in order to complete this attack, I've got to clear my knee, all right? So if I can clear my knee without him hanging on, but most people are going to hang on to that thing nice and tight. So if I'm having a problem getting my knee out and he's not letting me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take his hand, I'm going to pull it in nice and tight into his body, control it with one hand now so that he can't do anything with it. Now I'm going to come out here and I'm going to clear my knee. Now I've got my knee cleared, I'm going to re-grip into my Kimura grip, and now my back leg is going to step all the way over his head. All right, I'm going to keep him nice and tight to the ground right here. No need to pull him up. I've created the space that I need to get my Kimura and get my Kimura tap. That's the second way you're going to be able to submit your opponent inside of his half guard. All right, guys, the third way that we're going to submit our opponent inside of his half guard, this time he's done his wrestle up and he's gotten up a lot further underneath me, okay? So now I'm really worried about losing my base, so I'm going to attack his head. All right, so I'm going to go over the top of his head, and I'm going to punch my hand in underneath his neck. All right, so we're going to go for a guillotine here. So you can either do arm in or arm out. in this position, since he's so tight, I'm just gonna reach in and I'm making this grip underneath him, okay? So my hand's going in underneath his arm and I'm reaching in and I'm grabbing the fat of my own hand and I'm making this nice and tight underneath him, okay? So he's here, I've punched my hand over, I'm coming in here and I'm making that grip. Now I'm going to drive forward into him, making him go flat to the ground. So I'm driving forward into him, making him go flat to the ground. Now from here, I want to plant my head so that I don't get rolled and he can't loosen. So I'm gonna plant my head to the ground here. I'm gonna go up on both of my toes, lifting my hips, and then I'm gonna pull this direction to finish my guillotine, okay? So it's key when you're doing this guillotine finish that you don't try to stay flat on him and drive your hips. You wanna make sure that you pivot your head and come up on your toes. That way you have the room to pull your arm and make the guillotine even tighter. If you're on top of him when you do it, it's very, very difficult to finish, all right? That's the third way that you can finish your opponent in his half guard and get a submission. You know, if you guys have any other submissions that you like to hit, you know, leave a comment down below. Let us know what you like to hit when you're stuck in your opponent's half guard and you're having a problem passing. So you guys just check those out. Don't forget the next video where he's gonna be trying to go underneath my hips. Check that out and let us know what you think.